Welcome back to another episode of 40 Facts About the 40K Universe. I am your host, Gersh1, and today we're going to be talking about chaos as we get into the Chaos Terminator. If you're new to the channel, subscribe. We post Warhammer 40K content every single day. If you have any suggestions, let me know in the comment section below, and if you enjoy our content, thank our patrons on Patreon. It is because of them that we can do this. Link in the description if you guys want to support us. But with that said, let's get into 40 facts on the Chaos Terminator. Sundered and cast out of the Imperium of Man, having turned their backs on the Emperor of Mankind, the Chaos Space Marines of the Traitor Legions know that there can be no peace for them, no forgiveness, nor absolution. They are wholly committed to the path of damnation, and they have marched it for 10,000 standard years in hellfire and doom. These genetically enhanced transhuman warriors have all the strengths and skills of their Imperial counterparts, to which are added the powers of chaos and the brutal devotion of their patron Chaos God. The armaments of the heretical Astartes differed little from the loyalist Space Marines. They possess the same primary weapons, such as bolters, bolter pistol, heavy weapons, knives, swords, and axes. However, they do possess thousands of standard years of combat experience, which turns these warriors into unstoppable killing machines. The most powerful and venerable of these traitors are in the honor of wearing the corrupted and feared suit of tactical dreadnought armor, more commonly known as Terminator armor. This advanced form of power armor is a relic of the Great Crusade, a close-quarter melee variant designed for battle brothers that require power and protection over maneuverability. The armor is massively bulky and contains a full array of fiber bundles and adamantium rods to support their heavy Gauss steel and ceramite plates that form the outer carapace. Some of these ancient suits are either stolen or inherited from previous traitor marines that fought during the Horus Heresy. Others obtained their Terminator armor from the heretical Dark Mechanicus, who sacrilegiously damned the machine spirits of these mighty armor patterns. And then there are those Chaos Terminators that have worn their armor since the Corpse Emperor walked amongst man. These heavily armored suits of power armor had become widely available by the time the traitor Warmaster Horus struck at Isstvan III. According to fragmented records of the Adeptus Mechanicus, Terminator armor was originally designed to become the ultimate Space Marine power armor, and was originally envisioned to replace the older suits. However, as the Horus Heresy drained the resources of the Imperium, Terminator exosuits became increasingly rare, for they were exceptionally difficult to create and maintain. In addition, during most battles, their bulk became a disadvantage against the light-powered armored warriors who easily outmaneuvered them. These suits were still highly sought after, however, as Terminator armor proved adept at bloody short-range battles waged in cramped conditions such as boarding actions and ship-to-ship engagements, hive cities, and tunnel fighting. After the traitor legions were driven from the realm of mankind and into the Eye of Terror, suits of Terminator armor became even rarer amongst them, as each legion of the Chaos Space Marines fought one another for dominance in an endless struggle for favor of their patron Chaos God or dominance. Many of their most prized relics and artifacts of technology were lost due to this attrition, and as these heretical Astartes succumbed to the powers of the warp, much of the organization and structure of their former Astarte legions or chapters completely disappeared. Therefore, suits of Terminator armor have become their most prized war gear, carefully maintained and guarded jealously by those fortunate few who have been in possession of these rare examples of advanced technology from a bygone era. Although these are masterpieces of war, the Chaos Terminator armor is as corrupted and twisted as the traitors within. Where once Imperial insignia was emblazed into the armor, leering death heads and the Eye of Horus now stare accusingly at those brave enough to look upon them. Spiked trophy racks protrude from their massive shoulders, the skulls of the enemy a barbaric testament to the wearer's martial prowess. Helmets have grown into bestial masks that sprout great tusks and razor horns, many of which have fused directly into the skulls of their wearers. When twinned with the stomping, heavy gait typical of the Terminators, these adornments conspire to give the impression of a slab-muscled, predatory Hulk searching for its next meal. The war gear of a Chaos Terminator varies dramatically, including weapons taken as trophies from slain foes and arcane equipment carefully maintained since the Horus Heresy. Chaos Terminators usually use ranged weapons, typically a combi weapon of some sort, such as a combi bolter, and they use chain axes, power mauls, and power claws, and other powerful close combat weapons. This deadly combination of devastating anti-personnel firepower and close-quarter fighting makes a Chaos Terminator a deadly and highly feared opponent. Some of these Chaos Terminators carry heavier and more powerful weapons, such as the double-barrel Reaper autocannon and the terrifying Heavy Flamer, to provide supporting fire for their comrades. Other Chaos Terminators enhance their abilities in close-quarter combat and wield a pair of lightning claws with which to carve up an enemy, or use a chain fist for cutting through armored vehicles and starship bulkheads. Surprisingly, a Chaos Terminator armor can move and operate with remarkable freedom and agility considering the sheer mass of the actual armor, which provides as much protection as an armored tank hull. With that said, Chaos Terminators are not the fastest of troops when it comes to reaching the enemy's battle line. To counter this, they often employ the use of Chaos Land Raiders as a transport vehicle that can smash open the fortifications of an enemy. This allows its murderous passengers to reach the foe without having to first navigate the fierce bombardment so often arrayed against them. Much like their loyalist counterparts, Chaos Terminators can also be teleported directly into battle from the vaulted hulls of their warships using arcane technology dating back to the time of the Great Crusade, though they are just as likely to use Chaos Sorcery for such a strike as they are this ancient technology. The sudden appearance of a unit of Chaos Terminators within the enemy's headquarters can spell the bloody end of many protracted campaigns. The appearance of a Chaos Champion in Terminator armor is powerful enough to stir up the legions of chaos and push cultists and demon alike into a frenzy of violence. The destructive power of a unit of these warriors is enough to strike fear into the enemy's ranks and send them fleeing from the demonically touched Terminators, whose armor reflects 10,000 years of corruption and war. There have been a few Chaos Terminators that bully cultists into making minor repairs to their armor, which is why distinctive and studded plasteel plates cover much of their bodies. These pieces of scrap plates are scavenged after a battle, and the armor of the slain is cannibalized by the Chaos Terminators, adding to the unnatural and terrifying appearance of these hulking monstrosities. Some of the damage inflicted on a Chaos Terminator is left there on purpose to remind the enemy of their inability to end the warrior's life. A gash across their shoulder pauldron, or hundreds of bullet dents, are all testaments to the unstoppable fury of a Terminator. Many of the corruptive mutations common amongst heretical Astartes take advantage of these open wounds and spread out of the armor itself, allowing horns, spikes, and tendrils to sprout out of the warrior's body, furthering their demonic appearance as the chosen of chaos. The extent of a Chaos Terminator's mutations depends mostly on the Chaos God that they worship, and how much of that God's power is coursing through their body. One of the most grotesque-looking Chaos Terminators encountered by the Imperium is the Blight Lord Terminator, which are an entire formation utilized by the Death Guard Traitor Legion, dedicated to Grandfather Nurgle, the Chaos God of disease and decay. These Chaos Champions are bound to their cataphracti pattern armor suits for all of their eternal life. They stalk relentlessly towards the foe's battle lines with their deadly array of virulent weaponry, mowing down the enemy's ranks with contemptuous ease. At last, the Terminators break into a lumbering charge, hefting huge weapons with which to hack and bludgeon the enemy. Flails of corruption entangle weapons and limbs in corrosive barbs. Bubonic axes and bale swords tear wounds into which 1,000 poxes seed. By the time the Blightlord Terminators stomp on in search for a new victim, nothing remains of their enemies but maggot-ridden corpses. Combining the protective powers of their cataphracti warplates with the disease resilience bestowed onto them by Nurgle's gifts, Blightlord Terminators are terrifyingly hard to kill. They take pride in this fact, advancing contemptuously into the teeth of a firestorm, mocking their enemies' attempts to destroy them. This arrogance grates upon the Death Guard brothers, but the Blightlords make such exceptional shock troops that it is overlooked or even condoned by some of their masters. Most Death Guard Victoriums include at least one band of Blightlord Terminators for breach assaults, boarding actions, and sudden teleport strikes. It is rare for a ship of the Plague Fleet to take to the tides of the warp without a complement of the Blightlords aboard. Due to the amount of time they spend embarked upon disease-ridden warships, Blightlord Terminators are saturated with warp entropy. This foulness pours off of them in waves, rotting flesh and corroding metal in all areas around them. Where the Blightlords tread, crawling veins of corruption radiate outward like spiderwebs of rot and rust. An enemy needs only to be gripped by them in order for these energies to start agonizingly eating away at them, while vehicles and fortifications exposed to the Blightlord's presence soon slump and crumble. On many Death Guard warships, Blightlords act as the elite garrison, standing ready to defend the bridge at a moment's notice. During void battles, Plague Fleet captains bring their ships in close to the enemy vessel, allowing massed formations of Blightlords to teleport directly aboard. Like parasites hacking into the body of a luckless victim, the Death Guard Terminators begin their destructive rampage. Bullying their way down narrow corridors and corroding through sealed bulkheads, the Blightlords mercilessly crush the ship's defenders while spreading their corruption throughout its decks. The Blightlord Terminator has become one of the Imperium's most feared Chaos variants, but there there is one other Chaos God that favors the heavily armored and ancient warrior. Tzeentch, the god of change, loves his scarab occult Terminators. Following the Thousand Sons Legion's transformation into the Chaos Trader Legions devoted to Tzeentch, and the enactment of the Rubric of Ahriman, the physical bodies of the Sekhmet, the Thousand Sons Terminators, like many of their non-psychic battle brothers, were reduced to mere dust, the animating spirit that remained possessing only an echo of their once vaunt intellect. They go into battle on the behest of their sorcerer lords now, advancing with an eerie and unsettling calm. Some of these Chaos Terminators' masters were part of the Scarab occult at the time of Ahriman's mighty spell, and were robust enough of spirited mind to resist its obliterating effects. Others are powerful mystics who have ascended to the rank of the Thousand Sons over many centuries, and through twisted ingenuity, earned a place amongst the vaunted Sekhmet. In these cases, the Scarab occult sorcerers control the unstoppable force of the warrior automatons, capable of wading unharmed through the masses of lesser enemy infantry. The Scarab occult's ornate armor, derived from the variant of the ancient Tartaros pattern warplates, ripples with arcane force, sending solid shots ricocheting away and even turning aside the beams of high-energy weaponry. Each suit was a relic of the Legion, but even before the fall of Tzeentch was completed, the Thousand Sons had begun engraving their Terminator armor with profane inscriptions. This desecration continued even after the persecutions against the sorcerers laid down by the Council of Nicaea, for the Scarab occult saw it as their duty to guard the forbidden knowledge that their Primarch had collected. The Rubric of Ahriman sealed each warrior inside their defiled armor permanently, locking the remnants of their soul for eternity with the spell words that they had etched on their armor. Over the millennia of exposure to the warp, the true powers of these etchings have blended with the essence of each warrior, creating the Scarab occult, a hellish twisted warrior cabal. The Scarab occult's armor has retained much of its potency over the long centuries since its creation. Refractor field generators have become saturated with warp energy, causing the air around them to wither as incoming fire is deflected harmlessly. Each suit is also capable of withstanding the pressures of teleportation, allowing the warriors of the Scarab occult to emerge suddenly onto the battlefield through holes torn into reality. The ubiquitous weapons of the Scarab occult Terminators is a cruelly curved blade based on the Khafesh of ancient Prospero. The earliest Khafeshes were forged from the scant pieces of precious metals found in their barren world, and were symbols of authority used to mete out punishment to those who disobeyed Prosperian law. When the Thousand Sons Legion came to Prospero, the Khafesh were adopted by the Scarab occult as a mark of their rank, and they were fitted with power field generators to allow to cleave matter at a molecular level. Though the warriors of the Scarab occult are but ghosts of their former glory, the deadly speed and skill with which they wield their blades in close-quarter combat has remained very potent. The Scarab occult Terminators bat away the assailants' blows with contemptuous sweeps of their power casheps. Sadly, although the Scarab occults were once counted amongst the most powerful mortals in existence, their independence is long gone now, and they serve only the sorcerous fiends in their midst. Although the Thousand Sons and the Death Guard Trader Legion are the only two Chaos factions that have solidified a Terminator variant, there are many more reports of other Chaos warbands modifying and thus creating unique Terminator armor. It is also no mystery why the power and protection of these Terminators is sought after by most Chaos warlords, which is why the greatest leaders of the Chaos forces are always seen donning the ancient pattern of power armor. And those were 40 facts on the Chaos Terminators. This was Gershwan with One Mind Syndicate signing out.
Always used to put my freedom first in any situation.